Hi, Larry. Thank you so much for joining me this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
Doing good, Russ. Doing good.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for your time for joining me in this podcast episode. So yeah, we're going to have like conversation about how you built your business and the career you have right now. So before you into that, like love to know more about your what you actually be like when you was on a childhood. Like you wanted to be a business owner, like or something else.
Well, when I was a child, I started my sales career at 6 years old,
Hmm.
helping my father with his direct marketing businesses. It's where I first learned to sell. And I actually wanted to be a chef at the time. My grandfather was a master baker.
Right.
My father had run a candy shop, and so I wanted to continue the family tradition to be a chef.
That's great.
But I ended up in a couple of car accidents and couldn't literally stand to be in the kitchen.
No.
You can't work in a kitchen environment in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Uh, so I had to give that up and go back into selling. I've sold everything from toner to toothpaste and applesauce to oil wells.
Hmm.
For the past 23 years or so, I've sold books.
Yeah,
They,
that's great.
yeah, it's been going pretty well. I also help people develop their own businesses and go for their dreams. I call myself a success coach.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the like idea of like starting the new business where you help other people they can build their businesses?
Well, I had a lot of people going up to me and saying, "How did you do that?" So I figured I'd make a business telling them. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about your journey, like building your business. What's the obstacle that you had to go through in terms of being who you are right now? What was it like starting a business?
Well, it was a little difficult because I had to do half of my business startup from the hospital.
Mm.
I spent a year in a deep depression after I lost my job as an oil and gas broker. And I wrote my first book on the hospital. That's how I got out of it. And that started my writing career.
Oh,
Before that, I was in telemarketing, I was in direct sales, I was scooping ice cream at Baskin Robbins. I was I actually did work as a chef for a couple of months. I was third in command of the kitchen. I did the ice carvings, the fruit work, and some other stuff, but I had to leave that and get back into sales. So
yeah.
that's how I started my business.
It's not easy to things to do, like while you're in a hospital and writing your own books
Yeah.
and creating a business for yourself. I congratulate with you. It's not easy tasks to do. So writing a book from a hospital, how did you come up with the like people are like in a sad, they probably are like worrying depression that moment because they're not well themselves. And
Right.
you're writing your book. How did you come up with the mindset like I need to do something positive?
Well, after a year of depression, I happened to see a piece of an episode of the late Rush Limbaugh's show. And he was talking, this was back during the Clinton era. I'm a little older.
Hmm.
And he was talking about how nobody in America could save any money anymore. It was done. And I had just been working for an oil and gas broker, so I had some financial savvy. And I got upset. I started telling my nurse who was helping me through the depression all about how I could come up with 36 ideas or more to come into a at least $2,000 a year and how to make an effort to get into your life. And I'll never forget this. The nurse told me that night, he says, "Larry, you've been depressed for a year and wanted to die. Now you've got a passion and you want to live. I'm going to break protocol and get you a pen and a piece of paper. You're going to write it out." That's how I started my writing career. 2 months later, I had the book and was headed to LA to find an agent.
Yeah, that's great. Like it took you like 2 months to write the whole book.
Yeah,
Yeah. And what was the book about for
it
instance?
was 30. It was a little bit about sales, a little bit about my life, but basically, it was 36 ideas on how to save $2,000 a year.
Okay.
It was set in the US dollar because I'm in the United States, but it will work worldwide.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the book is out of print, but I do still have some copies.
Yeah, that's a great. So yeah, then you come up with a come out from the hospital, like you writing your second book? Was your like a second book was?
Well, my second book has a little bit of a twist to it. So I found an agent when I got the first book out,
Hmm.
and they suggested I self-publish rather than go through a publisher because it would really get it out faster and guarantee it would get out rather than going through the stuff to put book proposals and whatnot to get it out there. So I self-published it, and he suggested I go to a poetry reading
Right.
to improve my skills. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but when you're doing poetry, you're getting bookings for speaking events, you're getting bookings for uh, book sales, you're getting bookings for distribution worldwide, you're getting bookings for uh, credit card payments. There's a lot involved that people don't realize that poetry is a business. I have a
Mm,
friend who calls it the multi-million-dollar poetry industry, and it really is. So
yeah.
I've been doing that for 23 years. I've made a living at it. I've bought a house, I bought a car. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been helping like other poets like write books and grow their business. How do you go about that? Like how do you help them?
Well, I have a six-step process I take my clients through. It's not just poets. I also work with comics, screenwriters, producers, business people, and I have
Mhm.
a six-step process I take them through. First step is concept. We get absolutely crystal clear on what you want to do and
Right.
what it's going to take to do that.
Yeah. S-
Yeah,
Would you like to share like a few of them steps so our audience can understand it if someone is
sure.
interested?
Well, let's say the first step is you want to be a professional poet. Well, the first thing you got to do is write enough poems to get professionally at it.
Hmm.
Then you got to decide whether you want to be a performance poet or a page poet. Do you want to write books or do you want to go on the stage?
Right.
You know, if you go on stage, you do it like a speaker. You get bookings as a professional speaker, and they pay you just like a professional speaker. So
Yeah.
it is fairly lucrative. But that's the first thing you got to do. Then you got to write at least 100 poems.
Mm,
I say 100 poems because the average book that sits on a shelf has to be at least 100 pages or you can't print the spine. It's not thick enough.
right.
So you have to write 100 poems to put in the book, or you have to have 100 poems to perform. Now, I have a technique that lets me write poems within 30 seconds or less based on titles called out by the audience. Sometimes I teach that technique. Sometimes uh, my clients want to be page poets and actually write. So I have organizations where I send them to get training as writing. I don't believe in colleges simply because you can go to one college, pay them thousands and thousands of dollars for a master's of finance degree, or you can go to an organization where all the teachers from all those colleges hang out, go for $20 a year, and in this 5 years you've got the same education that you only paid $20 for.
Mhm. Yeah, totally makes sense. So yeah, uh, being a poet and writing a poems, a lot of people think like this is not like a lucrative career path or something. And you just saying like you living out of it, you brought your house and everything.
Hmm.
So how someone can get into like that kind of profession? Like they probably have the passion for it, and they never thought like someone can actually do it.
Right. It depends on what you want to do. There are all kinds of opportunities to get into it.
Hmm.
Just all you really have to do is Google how to make a living from poetry or contact me. I'll help you to take you through it.
Yeah, and that's great. And you know those like books they print out, is it have to be all physical or like it could be like a Kindle or like a digital format?
Digital format, print format. I use print format because I'm a little old fashioned. I like when I say a book, I mean a physical book, but
Yeah.
you can just as easily do an ebook, audiobook. In fact, I just did an audiobook with a friend of mine who does audio and voice recording editing.
Mm,
He actually works on people and helps them do their audiobooks for various places. and he's got all the equipment to do the sound engineering. He's got all the equipment to do the development of the quality for distribution. We've already
Yeah.
sold 3 audiobooks on Audible, so it's going well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, a lot of people are going to like on Audible right now, because you just put your headphones on, you can drive or put it on your car, you can do jogging, running, wherever you're doing, and just
mhm.
listening to the book. And I've been doing that. Like I stopped reading paper book, although I have some, but last couple of years I'm just listening to all of the audiobooks. It's so much time. Like you can do anything, like you go for a jog and you just listen to it like on your headphones, and makes it so much easier, and you can gain knowledge so much easy. So those who's listening, Larry, if anyone's is an entrepreneur and they want to write their book, do you think like they consider as being poetry, or like write a poem, or they can do like their biography, their story? Which one works better?
Biography, story, poems, it doesn't really matter. It's however you want to write your story. It's your
Mm,
story. So, however works best for you. You know, I always say that Webster's dictionary defines a poem as a story that evokes a feeling. If you do it as a biography and it evokes a feeling, it is a poem. If you do it as a poem, it evokes a feeling, it is a poem. If you do it as a list and it evokes a feeling, it is a poem. So
yeah, yeah, it totally makes sense. Like a lot of people right now, it's a personal branding right now, because all of them businesswoman, businessman, they focusing on creating something so they can do public speaking, they can get other gigs, they can create authority on their expertise. So having like a kind of book either could be a poem or biography or whatever they feel like they used to be. So do you think like creating a publishing a book, do you need any kind of big amount of capital, or like a small amount, let's say a couple of thousand or $5,000 will be enough to create a book?
one copy is printable for like $10. You There's a system called print on demand. You print one copy at a time.
Hmm.
As long as you have one copy, you have a book. If you want to print thousands of copies, you can have thousands of books. I would start with one book, one copy. This way you have it in your hands. You can say, I did a book.
Right.
When you do that, you can now go to producers, publishers, agents, and the general bookstores and the general public and say, I have a book out. I'm going to be releasing copies on such and such a date. Will you come? Will you buy them and whatnot?
Hmm.
That's one of the things I teach my clients. Use print on demand services if you can. If you self publish, if you go with a publisher,
Yeah.
make sure they will do print a run as many as you can sell. And if you do it with a publisher, be prepared to do the marketing. They will ask you to do signings. They will ask you to do public appearances. They will ask you to travel a little bit. It's not just on Zoom anymore. They want you live.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, Larry, we're coming to end of this podcast. So those who's listening, if anyone wants to learn more about your program, how you can coach them or help them in a way, or get some advice from you, what's the best place to find you?
I'm available on LinkedIn. I believe in the show notes, you'll have my contact information. And I'm open to anyone anytime. My normal business hours are 3 to 5 a.m. Eastern Development, Eastern Daylight Time,
Yeah.
and then 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and then 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So you can call me 24/7, and I'll answer during one of those times.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Larry, for your sharing, like how someone can be a poem and then create a living out of it. I really appreciate it for you being here. So I wish you best of luck with your career and your life. And thanks for coming.
Best of luck to you too, Reza.
Thank you. So that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope it could bring you some value for your life. So those who's listening, if anyone is interested, reaching out to Larry, go visit his website. Also reach out to him in his social media platform. And I'm gonna leave all of them links on the podcast. So yeah, until then, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.